I started farming with my dad when I was old enough to get on a tractor at probably 8 or 10 years old. And I started farming on my own when I was 16. I rented 2 farms at Truby. I still farm them today. This industry is a very expensive industry to enter into, especially on the commercial side of the cotton and the cattle. The equipment's very expensive. The new John Deere picker strippers with the round bale, you're looking at about $650,000 per unit. So you can't just jump out and have a 50-acre farm and have that kind of equipment. And a new tractor, at 350 to 400,000, same thing. So our area, for the most part, we have to buy pre-owned equipment, to make it more feasible out here in the drier, less productive areas of agriculture.
When you sit there and if you're putting together a business plan, you look at it, you say, okay, that stripper takes one person to run. If I was to use an old style cotton stripper, I would need a cotton stripper driver, I would need a bull buggy driver, I would probably need 2 bull buggy drivers, I would need several hands in the field to compact the modules. So there's looking at least 5 people. That's salaries, that's insurance. Or I can buy a $700,000 piece of equipment that's under warranty that is going to start up every day and that takes me to operate. And I cut out having to pay 5 employees because in the ag field, just like in any other field, labor is getting harder and harder and harder to find.
One of the biggest problems that we face right now is finding qualified labor. You almost have to have a basic knowledge of what you're doing before you go out there and get on this expensive equipment. And the biggest problem facing us right now in the agricultural world is that we cannot pay the kind of salaries that are needed for people to come work for us. It's hard for them to make a living on the amount that we can afford to pay with the commodity prices at where they are today. The migrant labor is great. Most of the migrant labor that comes up, though, is not very well trained for the more modern equipment. And you can't just put someone on a several $100,000 piece of equipment that doesn't know what they're doing. The results can be disastrous.
I remember growing up, a lot of kids that, just graduated high school and were either going to college or doing some type of technical school, they would work for a farmer. Well, now they can go straight into the oil field, making 6 figures, and they learn their trade there on the job versus going to a technical school, learning the trade there, and then coming back and getting an entry-level position.
It's really hard for somebody with small acreages to come in and buy that $250,000 brand new combine. They generally take that older combine, keep it refurbished every year, and keep using it because it's paid for, it works, and set no other for their small stuff, and then still get that $475 an acre. So that's an obstacle there that people don't understand, that the machinery and the technology is so advanced and expensive that the little guy that has the 100-acre plot really can't go out and afford to pay for that big huge combine. So he either has somebody come in and do it, or he just runs his old unit.
We can look back and inputs have at least doubled, if not tripled, from the 80s, but prices are still at that 80s mark. How can you make that cash flow? So a lot of producers have had to go find outside income.
Like a pallet of cottonseed now, it's going to cost you $17,000 or $18,000. That's enough to plant 400 acres. And used to, we were looking at $10 to $15 a sack, where it's up in the $375 to $400 range now.
We're seeing a lot of the smaller guys, smaller acreage guys, do it just as a hobby. They've got a day job they do, and that offsets the cost of what the small farm does. The guys that are doing it for a living that have small acreages are really not making enough money because of the cost of the equipment versus what the cost of or the profit of what you're making off of the material. And so mainly what we're starting to see is, or what I'm starting to see is, a lot of the higher acreage farms are the ones that are going to stay afloat because they're making more off of each acre versus the small guys not being able to make as much because they've got such a small footprint. So to recap on that, I think what I'm looking at is the bigger acreage guys are the ones that are going to stay around.
We can look back 75 or 100 years. The farm size increases constantly. It went from a family could live off of 80 acres to 800 acres to it's headed to 8,000. And it's all to make about the same living that you did back then. It's all about becoming more efficient at what you do. And as I said earlier, one person has to do more and more all the time to stay ahead of the game. And the bigger you are, the more efficient you can be. You spread your cost out over more acres. Finding land to buy is not hard. Finding land that's affordable is real hard. The land has always been overpriced for what it will produce. It very seldom will pay for itself. You nearly have to bring in outside resources to pay for it. But once it's paid for, it's a good investment.
When you start getting closer to areas like the Metroplex or Austin or San Antonio, is land tracts are being broken up into smaller tracts. So it is getting harder and harder for a producer to buy a tract of land that is A, affordable, and B, big enough to have a capacity to handle a family to farm on, because people are buying these tracts for recreational use.
The organic is a great idea, and it's a growing part of the agricultural scene. It's much more labor intensive, and it's not as efficient for the quantity of food and fiber that we need to produce.
There's a lot of people out there that don't want to do chemicals, and I understand both sides of that. So you either got to go out there and manually have guys go out and hoe the weeds out and take care of the weeds, or you got to use them chemically. Chemically, I guess, is a better, faster way to take care of them. But then you're putting those chemicals in the ground and stuff like that. So I understand both sides of that. The chemical's faster, but nowadays you're getting weeds that are chemical resistant. So you're having to go to a different chemical to try to kill those out.
Whenever you start looking at organic things, you have to find organic facilities to keep from mixing organic and any type of chemically produced crop. And so we don't have a lot of that around here. One of the things I think we're going to see out of this COVID situation is a lot more people start small gardens. And at that point, I think maybe we could see some farmers markets starting up, and maybe there is an organic demand at that point. But today's situation, I don't see it, just because we don't really have anywhere to take it to.
The cultivated ground that we farm right now is about 4,500, and then we have around 3,000 acres of native pasture. We're currently farming cotton, sesame, hay, wheat, and running cattle.
Cowboys are tied to the land. I think they really are. They have a heart for God's creation. So I think the realities of being a cowboy in this culture, maybe it is romanticized so much in the movies, and people think that it's this Roy Rogers, this Gene Autry, even this John Wayne type stuff. Well, cowboy life is a rugged life, and it's a hard life, and it's very low pay, and it's lots and lots of hours. And I don't think cowboys mind those hours because they do love God's creation. They do love this baby calf that's being born, this calf that will grow up and will feed society. To the guy that doesn't know what a cowboy is, that goes to the high-end steakhouse, puts his feet under the table, doesn't even realize where this meat comes from. But it means something to this cowboy years earlier when they're just 75-pound baby. They'll work hard. They'll stay longer. They love their horses. I think they're connected to God in a way maybe that the rest of the world that doesn't live out in the country. They're connected to God. It's connections with God, I think, in the country that you're missing out on to see a baby calf suck, to milk a mama cow to get some milk to feed a dogie calf that doesn't have anything to eat, a colt that's brand new born. All those things, it's a connection. How can you see life at its purest form and not have some kind of connection to God? And so, cowboys, hard life, but a good life. Lots of freedoms. No time clock to punch. No traffic to deal with. Hard hours working, but a great life, a good life. You know, one that I'm very thankful to have been a part of, be a part of still. You know.
Nearly all farmers want to leave the land better than they found it. And I think we're told to do that. We're supposed to be good stewards of the land. And God set this land up where it will take care of us, and we need to take care of it. And as we learn more, learn different practices, I think we're building our soil back up from maybe some low points, maybe 50 years ago. And I think the future looks pretty bright.
Not very cowboy, but it's on my arm. Live life with passion. Colossians 3:23 says, whatsoever you do, do it heartily as unto the Lord and not unto man. And so that's been my deal. You know what? If you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly bear. And if you're going to serve God, by golly, do it with passion and give it all you got. So that's my whole life verse. Yeah.